Well, good morning, fellow reversionists. How are you all today? It's a great day here. Hope it is with you all too. Boy, I have some interesting things to talk about with you today. Did you all happen to watch El Presidente's speech last night? Well, I didn't, but I got up this morning and I did. Do you remember when somebody used to say, I watched it so you wouldn't have to? Well, I did, because I'm sure that most of you didn't, because just the thought of it probably just drove you nuts. But I want to say something about that at the end of this, because I would suggest that maybe sometimes you watch some of these things. But I watched it, and as humorous as it was in some places, and as painful as it was in some places, it's good to well, it was good for me anyway, so that I could write some things down to share with you. Now, if you don't want to watch it for yourself, then that's what I'm going to serve here for you. But I think there are some things here that are important. And I understand many people, including my wife, says, I don't want to watch. The thought of the man, the thought of even watching that just disgusts me. I can't even take it. And I understand that. I mean, it was with real revulsion that I watched it. But I want to share a few things with you. And I wrote some things down. Hey, this will bring back some memories for some of you. Remember that? Man, don't we miss him? Don't we miss him? I remember the first time I ever heard him. Do you? Now, maybe I'll talk about that sometime. Okay. So, El Presidente declared war on MAGA America last night. Big surprise, right? Now, the reason that they're doing this, and we know it, is to take everybody's mind off of the economy and everything else in the country that's just going to pot. I mean, it's the American experience right now is horrible for anyone who believes in the foundational principles of America. By the way, I meant to say this at the very beginning, and I need to start saying this. And I'm going to ask, would you give this a like? Would you make sure that you're subscribed? And would you share this with as many people as you can possibly think of? Because that's the purpose of this, is to get some of this stuff out there to as many people as possible. Okay, back to this. Here are some things that Slow Joe said. Too much of what's happening today in our country is not normal. Well, I think we can all agree with that, can't we? Don't worry, it gets worse. Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundation of our republic. And then there was some, smattering of applause, major applause for him. Kelly read me she likes to read the comments below videos, and somebody said that applause is probably taken from a Trump rally. I said, no way, because it wasn't loud enough. It was the typical Biden applause. It was, a couple over here, a couple over there, a couple over there. Probably the staffers, they probably had a tough time getting anybody else to watch. And by the way, did you see the picture of it? Well, I think I'll use that as a thumbnail on this, but man, coming out of having the red lights all up behind him, if that wasn't, I don't know, was that supposed to be a message? It's not about red America, it's about red something else. Was this about red China? Is this about, I don't know what it's about. Is it about, hell itself? Well, it sure looked like it. And who in the world needs their wife to walk? What president in the world needs their wife to walk them out to the podium? And did you, and you didn't watch this, but they had this at in Philadelphia, and they announced, they play the Hail to the Chief, and then he comes tottering out with with his wife that they just love to call Dr. Jill because she has a PhD in education, like Bill Cosby does. And they introduced the President of the United States and Dr. Jill Biden. Who would even, has anybody ever come out and had their wife introduced as well? Because she wasn't making a speech. It was the President of the United States. And in this context, wouldn't she more have properly been referred to as Mrs. Biden? Okay, we'll get away from that. It's just one idiocy after another. So he assured the nation that Donald Trump and the MAGA Republican represent an extremism that threatens the very foundation of our republic. Now I'm gonna come back here, and I'm gonna say that in some respects, this speech was Reagan-esque. And I'm sure some of you going, what? Because I said it to Kelly and she says, what? No. Whoever wrote this speech was very, very good. He hit all the buttons, and this is what I want to talk about. He hit all the emotional buttons about America, about the other side wanting bad, about we want good, we want the best for everybody, America's best days are ahead. And whoever wrote this speech was exactly on target. He hit all the emotional triggers that they need to sway those middle, can't make up their mind voters, which those are who decides elections in this country, the ones who don't know anything. Well, no, and the left who don't know anything. Well, they know a lot, but they know a lot that's wrong. But that speech was a great one, except for some things that I'm going to read to you. And I'll tell you, Mr. Potato delivered it fairly well. He really did. It wasn't a bad speech at all. I mean, for him, it really wasn't bad. And I'll guarantee you right now that, and it's important to understand this and accept it, this speech probably swayed a lot of people toward his side. It's important to understand that. For those, and I'm going to talk a little bit more of this probably at the end, for those who say, I don't want anything, I will not watch him, I will not, okay. Did you play football, or did you wrestle, or did you fight, or did you ladies, I'm sure you did something, similar, or did you play volleyball, did you play, whatever it was you're involved in. Did you ever say, or did your coach ever say, well, I can't stand that other team or that other fighter or whatever, I don't care, I'm not going to watch any game films, I'm not going to watch what they do? Well, of course not. You see, that's the exact same thing. You need to know your enemy. Everybody from Sun Tzu to Clausewitz to everybody down to the Golden Gloves coach says, know your enemy. And if you refuse to watch your enemy, then you are either not fighting at all or determined to fight out of ignorance, not knowing what they're doing. I don't need to know what they're doing bad. Yeah, okay, well, you come on, please. I beseech you. Please get in the game by watching them, by knowing exactly what they're talking about. Because if you get into a conversation with somebody about this, somebody that you might be able to sway, and don't tell me that it can't be done because I do it all the time. You get into a conversation and they are talking about some things, and if all you have to retort about Biden's speech, that I didn't watch it, I wouldn't watch that guy, all I know, okay, you have just lost all credibility. Don't do that. We need you in the game. You need to be in the game, okay? Let me see. He says here, this is him talking, in my view, is what is true. Listen up, because it's about you. MAGA Republicans do not respect the Constitution. They do not believe in the rule of law. They do not respect the will of the people. They refuse to accept the results of a free election. MAGA forces are determined to take this country backwards. Well, this cap doesn't say take America backwards, it says takes America back. And then in another place, I just wrote down some quotes here from him. He says, that's why a federal judge has called Trump and the MAGA Republicans. You see, this is the new thing, MAGA Republicans. This is designed, believe me, this is designed to put a wedge between those who consider themselves normal and those who he is demonizing as extremists, MAGA Republicans. Okay? He's driving the wedge, and it's going to work. It's going to work. If we don't work against it, I guarantee you it's going to work. Okay? I've said this before, that, and I mentioned it to Kelly just before I came in here, that, remember, nobody could believe that Clinton would have been reelected because of all the problems he had and how horrible things were going for the country at the time, but he was. Why? The power of his speeches. Nobody could believe that Obama would be reelected because of the division he had sown in this country and how horrible things were going for so many people. He was causing more racial strife in our country than I've seen since the 1968 riots. He went around the world apologizing for everything America's ever done. Okay, it was horrible, but he was reelected. Why? Because the Democrats are very good at this game. They give great speeches and they sow division and fear of the other side, which is us. Okay? They're good at it. And I've said, don't be so sure that Biden won't be reelected. Some speeches like this, and he could be. And because they simply lie, and they have most of the media which lies for them. Okay? That's what it's all about. And don't be so sure there's going to be a red wave. They are smart. The other side is smart. They are doing everything they can. Everything they can to make sure that they don't lose any more. Or they could win some. Sarah Palin lost her bid up there in Alaska. And remember, one thing that I will disagree with Ronald Reagan about, he says, I trust the American people to know and to do the right thing. I think that is a day gone by. Whether it was ever true or not, he was a supreme optimist, and good for him for that, but I don't necessarily agree with that. Anyway, I interrupted myself in the middle of one of his quotes. He says, that's why a federal judge has called Trump and the MAGA Republicans, quote, a clear and present danger to our democracy. Those are dangerous words, because what is included in a clear and present danger? See, this is an introduction of the idea that MAGA Republicans, meaning anybody who doesn't agree with him, meaning those who want to make America great again, meaning Trump voters, okay? All those. When you declare something a clear and present danger, it sets the stage for being able to take certain actions in response to that clear and present danger, okay? He's sowing seeds here, or the speechwriter is sowing seeds. And if they're sowing seeds, it's because they want a plant to grow from it. Okay, here we have again. MAGA Republicans embrace anger. They thrive in chaos. Now, we know they're accusing us of what they do themselves. So as they do this, realize that they're talking about what they do, but they are putting us out there, and it's not falling on deaf ears. It's falling into the ears of the uninformed. And the uninformed, because of the way it's written and the way he delivered it, many of them will believe it. These are the things that will be spouted back to you when you have one of these little lemmings want to talk to you about things. Okay? So back again. MAGA Republicans embrace anger. They thrive in chaos. They live not in the light of truth, but in the shadow of lies. Well, that'd be a great title for a book, wouldn't it? The Shadow of Lies. Maybe I'll write one. He says, MAGA Republicans look at America and see carnage and darkness and despair. Well, have you been to Detroit or downtown Kansas City or St. Louis or pretty much anywhere else. You look at the homeless camps in San Francisco and LA and Chicago and all the major cities. Yeah. Carnage and darkness and despair. Yeah. I would say that's true. They spread fear and lies. Lies told for profit and power. The MAGA Republicans believe that for them to succeed, everyone else has to fail. Good manners, he says, is something they've never suffered for. That was just kind of an aside. And then he spoke up at the end, and he said something that really I've been saying, and I want to say it to you again today, because he's exactly right. The difference is his side will do it, and our side won't. He says, speak up. Speak up, stand up, and get engaged. Exactly right. Speak up, stand up, get engaged. The weakness of our side is not in our beliefs. It's not in our principles. It's the fact that too often we don't stand up. That as a large group, which is much more individualistic than the homogeneous left, we find ourselves bickering among each other over incidental things and won't come together to stand against the true danger to our republic. It's not a democracy, Joe, but you know, Kelly says, I've never heard the word democracy used as much as recently in the last 10 years, and she's probably right. I hadn't really thought about it. But you know, the term democracy has been used to drum up the emotions of the American people for one thing after another. World War II to save the world for democracy, right? Vietnam, save the world for democracy. Global war on terror. We're always being told that we need to stand up for democracy. And most people don't even know what that means. I mean, really. Ask 100 Americans what democracy means, and if 20 of them can tell you what democracy actually means, I'd be shocked. Okay, so it's an emotional whip to get the people, head in the right direction. Now, I can assure you, most of the people who watched that speech will think it was a great speech. And it was a great speech. Totally wrong, totally full of lies, but a great speech. And you have to be able to distinguish between the two. You have to be able to you have to be able to tell the difference, okay? Just because it was full of lies doesn't mean it wasn't a great speech, which means the purpose of a speech is to influence people. You need to influence people, and he did. Now, how do we combat that? How we combat that, we have, that's what Trump is out there doing, but they are loading stuff on him. Where the real power comes is from us on the ground. We have to be engaged on a daily basis with trying to convince people, with taking our message of reversionism out to the world. And no, I'm not trying to, create a big movement or anything like that. But, that's what I believe. A reversion, a lot of times when I have hit people with that term, I'm a reversionist. And it piques their curiosity, and they'll say, what's that? And then it gives you a chance to kind of talk about, things aren't going so well in our country. And we need to get back to, how things were when things were better. Pretty much, I tell you, 90% of the people go, you were right. That gives you a soft entry into that. But you have to be in the fight. Now, a word to the people, again, and I'll keep talking about this because I ask you, please send this to people. Those who will not participate in the fight, in the political process, essentially what they're saying is they want more of what's going on. Because if you won't stand against something, and I don't mean standing against it by fuming in your own house or stomping your feet and talking with people who agree with you only. But if you won't stand against something, you are empowering what is going on by your abstinence and your absence from the fight. Okay? Edmund Burke's famous saying, all that's necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. And another that I often repeat, silence always helps the oppressor, never the oppressed. We have movies, we have all sorts of things. We have songs that uplift, the people who stand up against oppression. But so often the people who are inspired, or say that they are, by these movies, by these emotional these emotional whips, they'll watch a movie about somebody who stood up, right? And then they'll talk about it and they'll say how inspiring it was, and then they won't do it. They won't do it. They won't even stand up and take a position against a neighbor. I mean, you don't have to go out there and fist fight them, but they won't actually go out there and express their opinion. Look what happened with all of this stuff over the last 2 years. The people who were all for the controls were just spouting stuff right and left. They were just, and how many people would actually engage them and try to convince them that they were wrong? The result of it was that idiocy continued and continued and continued, while a select group who refused to go along with it just kind of grumbled to each other. Well, I'm not going to do this. Okay. Kelly and I lost our jobs over it. We stood up. We told people exactly what we thought of it. And we lost good jobs. I don't care. That's, I'm not making myself to be some big deal. But that's what you have to do. And if you won't simply stand up and express an opinion, an honest, disagreeing, perhaps, opinion to someone and try to educate them, then that's the problem. And that's why this country is falling apart. Now, maybe this country has to fall apart. I don't know. Maybe that's God's will. Maybe it's time. But just because I'm going to talk about this over on the other channel, but just because you have lifeboats on the ship doesn't mean you don't try to save the ship if you can while it's going down, right? Anyway, stand up. Stand up and talk. Please share this video. One of the first ways you can do that, like I say, like this video, please. Share the video with people. Make sure that you're subscribed. If you'd like to support the channel, there's a way to do that. We have a Patreon channel, and I always put the link down here below. And you can come over and you can join us as a patron. That helps. And join at whatever level you want, at whatever level of support for us you want. We appreciate everyone who does that. But stay tuned. Stay in tune with what the other side does. Don't let your disgust for their position on things keep you from following and knowing what they're doing and what they're saying, because if you don't know what they're doing and saying, you're in a position of ignorance that will keep you from being able to properly represent what we believe in as opposed to what they believe in. So please don't let your disgust for them stop you from being a competent warrior for our cause. Does that make sense? Okay. Well, I've got a lot to do today, so I'm going to get going on it. Again, it's good to see you all today. I hope you have a good day. Remember, America needs a reversion. It needs you to be a part of it. And if you'd like to support us, as I say, please come and join us on Patreon. I do put other stuff over there, by the way, besides the videos that go up. Some funny stuff, some cool stuff, some interesting stuff, some informative stuff. And it's just a way that you can not only support us, but get a little more information. So you all have a good day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.